Good morning. Just to give you a background, I'm just going to concentrate in three major elements because the technical person is right there, Mr. Izquierdo, and he'll give you the nitty-gritty. But this is the real estate of the capital, and I want to make you aware this is a very severe tropical coastal zone. That means corrosion supreme. Not only the building is from 1929, it was conceived and designed for cross ventilation. So as the windows were open, guess what? All this salty air was going into the building. So we do have what I call a steel or standing concrete ship with the Atlantic Ocean to the north and the Bay of San Juan to the south. So that gives you more or less a background of how severe the environmental conditions can be. In my opinion, historic buildings are sort of different from constructions. And I have told the superintendent of the Capitol, I'd rather do the building from the roof down than building, which is from the foundation up. Why? Because humidity or moisture is the biggest damage to historical buildings. So I'm going to give you a little historical background. And the Capitol building is the result of a competition from 1907. So actually Frank Perkins, architect Frank Perkins from New York, to give you a perspective, was the one that won the competition for the Capitol building. But being in Puerto Rico, and we're always controversial, the building didn't happen with Frank Perkins' design. Only the foundation was done with Frank Perkins' design. From 1920s, imagine from 1907, which the design competition happened, only in the 1920s was that the actual construction of the foundations happened. In 1921, they stopped the construction, and they did a second design, or third design, architect Rafael Carmuega. Happens to be that Frank Perkins was from New York, and Rafael Carmuega was a Cornell graduate from the US as an architect. So the Capitol building, when you look at it, it's inspired in the Law Library from Columbia University. And if you look at the Law Library, it looks pretty similar in concept, in massing and concept. So the structure, to be short, is a reinforced concrete structure cladded in Georgia white marble and a collection of very intricate ornamental terracottas. So the Capitol Central space, which is an atrium, also is open. So this is the project story. So we go location, background, and this is the story. In 1998, after Hurricane Georges, which was not a big deal in Puerto Rico, but a lot of water, caused these conditions here that you can see. And just by plain observation, which I call observation, we knew there were some problems happening in here. So we alerted, I want to make you aware that the Capitol is managed by the superintendency of the Capitol, which is designated by the legislature, and blah, blah, blah. In other words, bureaucracy, okay? So in other words, decision-making and processing is not the most efficient or fast. So we told in 1998 we need to get a subject matter expert. We did get, at that time, Smithsonian Institute conservators in the person of Joe Sembert and Martin Weaver, which were very recognized at that time. And they did for us, after 2 years of me convincing the superintendency, we did a study, which was later on published in the, how do I go forward? In the Traditional Building magazine. We tried to preserve that southwest corner, but we ended up deciding that it was best to dismantle the corner to understand what was going inside the corners of the building. So this is the first time I've ever heard of Syntec, which you see some sketches here. We spent about 4 hours doing sketches of how to preserve the 7 cores of terracottas so that we could, at the same time, understand how to reattach them, okay? If we dismantled the corner, it was not that hard to put back, but we were trying not to dismantle the entire cornice with the base of the Capitol. So that was some time that we spent. And again, like I said, it took us like 5 or 6 years to get another project to get back in track. At the same time, I had convinced the superintendency, let's go ahead and do the molds for the terracotta pieces. To give you an idea, there are 7 courses of terracotta and 1,568 pieces overall. around the base of the Capitol dome. That's how complex this thing can be. So when we started doing this project, we understood that, one more time, we had sort of a crisis because the other areas, you started seeing some modillions that were falling at the same time. So we even made the newspaper. You know, the building that says there, se cae en pedazos, which means the building is falling apart. And then el tiempo le pasa el tiempo. So, I mean, time is passing, you know, on the building and making it worse. At the same time, at the main entrances, we were seeing some collapses and so forth. So we were trying to make this, instead of historical preservation, hysterical preservation to get the message through. So finally, we go all the way to 2022, and we got called by the superintendency because they were trying to do a restoration of the mosaics in the atrium. And I told the superintendent, you can't do that unless you do the dome, first of all, because it's the highest point in the Capitol building, and you need to address it. Being architects for superintendencies in 1985 or 86, we had 30+ years of collecting, because I took it as a passion or a mission to collect every single drawing I could of the capital of Puerto Rico, and this proved to be essential for our project. I even got the original structural design of the capital. It's a 1924 drawing, hand-drawn, and these sections that you see there are also the original drawings. And these photographs show that in 1929, this is the era, more or less, where the dome was being built. So these photographs were all instrumental in us understanding what we were dealing with, in essence. So in other words, now we have the project. So that we do, thanks to the digital drawings, all our terracotta pieces and so forth were sort of like a Lego puzzle, and we organized each one of them in a specific code. And Gladden McBean, which we convinced the superintendency to purchase the terracottas in advance, because terracottas will take anywhere from 4 to 8 months just to get them from original intention of building the terracotta to actually getting the material on site. So we purchased the terracottas ahead of time when we finally decided to go ahead and bid the project. So what happens after we get all these drawings and we get all this stuff? We went into the bidding process, and we were fortunate, what I call myself a double whammy, because we got a contractor that happened to be a structural engineer also. So we had Izquierdo, and then we had the contractor, Jose Gaya, from BPMT, who was the contractor, and we were able to, as you can see, this is the process, and try to abbreviate as much as I can, a very complex process of the corners could be easily installed, but then the other pieces were done in Syntec, and then Izquierdo will be more in detail with this. As you can see, the pieces had to be hand-colored. Edison Coatings was the supplier for some of the finishes for the terracottas and so forth. And here we are seeing the results of the final project there. And we were able to preserve the interior, which is the mosaics.
Well, the architect always fix more. We're done. Let's try to do this in 2 minutes. A recognition to the scaffolding guys. They did a fantastic job. All the exterior scaffolding is curved. The interior between the two domes is curved, and it was essential for the performance of the contractor. This gives you a section of the original construction plans, which we were able to review and verify of the rebars. You can see that there are two domes. Both of the domes are made out of concrete. The one who caused us trouble was the exterior dome. We don't have time to try to explain the complexity of the structural system. The inner dome is not supported directly into columns down there. It's supported between beams and circular beams and other columns, but we don't have time to go in deeply. We did what is very important, according to ACI Code 562, you need to do testing everywhere. And it was a great lab, spec engineers, they did all kind of testing. And the important one was this. We found that there was extensive honeycombing in the exterior dome from the 1926. We think that because they were afraid of the big angles of the dome, they use a very dry mix. And because of that, this is ACI only existed for 15 years when this was done. So, and the code was 16 pages, published in 1910. This was a big problem. If we have to repair it from the outside, we have to take the marble. The project would have gone nowhere. So thanks to the support of master builders at that time, now Sika, they recommended a micro cement to inject from the inside. It's a micro cement used to stabilize tunnels inside mines. So a process to the diagram on the right, we injected every 16 inches in circles from the bottom up, always from the bottom up. Low pressure injection, only 30 psi. We just want to fill out the voids, and the contractor has to watch that there would be no micro cement on the outside to damage the marble. It happened, I think, 5 times that the micro injection went outside. The basis of corrosion was to horizontal surfaces between the dome construction, salt water, like Pablo said, deposit there. Every time it rains, the salt water goes inside the structure, and that's why they were using regular techniques. They're very important to detailing the drawings, photos of the damaged beam, repaired beam, and then the terracottas was much larger the damage. This shows you the process of the syntax. This is a very important European technology that the rod is inserted into a good attachment area, it's solid, and then it goes in with how you call like a sock, and after then you inject a grout, so it grows and then makes everything together without causing extra stress. Then you tighten the rod and everything stays in place. The contractor make a redesign after we see the extensive damage. This is on the corners. We needed to do some structural extra. We use stainless steel angles and concrete beams, and it was injected. And I wanted to show these 2 pictures. At the end, artists with a small spatula finished the project, because to make sure that all the ornamental terracotta mix. And we received an award from the architects in Puerto Rico, and we're very humble of the ACI award. Thank you.